At midnight, a cold girl at the bus stop heard a dark secret. "Will you be my mommy forever?" The night air wrapped around the bus stop like a cold hand. It was a thin, lonely girl, shivering against the biting wind, her breath misting in the air. Beside her, a rusted bench creaked, echoing the stars above as they twinkled like distant eyes watching her every move. Something felt wrong, like the unease of a storm brewing just out of sight. There was an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional bark of a distant dog or the soft rustle of leaves, making her skin crawl with every sound. Just then, an old bus rumbled up the street, its headlights spilling light like a thick fog. The girl shuffled her feet, boots scuffing against the pavement, heart pounding in her chest. She felt the eyes of the driver boring into her, assessing her from behind foggy glass. But the bus was empty when the doors swung open. The driver leaned out, a shadowy silhouette, and in a voice tinted with something chilling, whispered, "You don't want your ticket?" The words hung in the air like a threat, raising goosebumps on her arms. Then came a faint sound, almost like a soft cooing. It sent shivers down her spine. "Will you be my mommy forever?" A child's voice, a sweet, innocent thing, yet laced with a depth that churned her stomach. She turned quickly, scanning the darkness. No child was in sight, only the twisted shadows of the night, making her pulse race faster. Droplets of sweat trickled down her back despite the cold, and she fought to catch her breath. Was it a prank? Was she losing her mind? The hairs on the back of her neck stood tall, as she peered into the abyss of the darkness. She could almost feel the weight of someone lurking just beyond her vision, a cold presence that made her want to scream. But no sound escaped her lips. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As she stood frozen, the whisper returned, this time closer, a chilling echo that vibrated through her bones. "Will you be my mommy forever?" The words curled around her thoughts like smoke, inviting yet sinister. Her heart raced as she searched desperately for the source. Just then, a flicker of movement caught her eye, a shadow darting just outside the light. The tension coiled around her like a noose. Who spoke? A silent scream clawed at her throat as she realized she was alone, utterly alone at this forsaken stop. The world felt like it was collapsing in on her, darkness wrapping her in a shroud of dread. She could turn and run, but what if the shadow followed? The voice haunted her ear, a siren's call that lured her deeper into an abyss that made her legs feel like lead. Suddenly, a flicker of light ignited in her mind, a promise of hope. Could she find a way out? Or would she become just another dark tale whispered about under dim streetlights? She took a shaky breath, bracing herself for the unknown just beyond the bus stop, the fear and curiosity battling fiercely inside her. But there was no going back now. The bus engine coughed its final breath, leaving an echo of silence that hung heavy in the air. Heart racing, she turned towards the abyss, adrenaline pumping through her veins like thunder. Was silence worse than the sinister whispers? She could feel the temperature drop even lower, or was it just her imagination slipping further into panic? "Mommy," the voice floated again, eerie and melodic, twisting through her mind like a dark lullaby. Where was it coming from? The world felt distorted, stretched thin by shadows that seemed to breathe and weave around her. She stepped back, eyes darting left and right. A shiver ran down her spine, her gut twisting into knots. Without thinking, she took a step forward, compelled by something deeper than fear, a longing for warmth, for connection. But what kind of connection lurked in the shadows? Suddenly, a shape shifted in the darkness, a blur barely visible to her frantic eyes. She squinted, heart pounding, and there it was again, a dark figure standing a few feet away. A child. No, two. But in the pale moonlight, they warped in front of her like smoke. Ghostly and thin, their forms danced with the shadows, with eyes that glimmered like shards of glass. "Will you be my mommy forever?" The voice came again, now from both of them, their small lips never moving in sync, almost echoing in harmony. An inkling of recognition tugged at her mind, and she felt herself teetering on the edge. Were these the voices of lost souls? Were they pleading for something more than just her acknowledgement? She opened her mouth, the scream dying within her throat. What if they were not spirits, but something far more dangerous? A cold realization dawned upon her. These children might be the essence of nightmares, entities that twisted innocence into something grotesque. "I can't," she stammered, grappling with the words that felt foreign on her tongue. "I can't." The shadows shifted again, inching closer, revealing more of the children's gaunt faces, their skin pale like death. They giggled softly, a sound sharp and dissonant, piercing through her sanity. "But we want you." Their voices chimed, words intertwining in the night air. The urgency of their need wrapped around her, stifling her breath. The ground felt uneven beneath her as she stumbled back, heart hammering against her rib cage. "What do you want?" The tremble in her voice was unmistakable. The children stood still, unnatural, their eyes boring into her very soul. She felt exposed, vulnerable under their gaze, as though they could see into the darkest corners of her heart. "Mommy, you want to take us home?" Each word dripped, with a sticky sweetness that turned her stomach. The sensation of dread morphed into desperation, as she searched for an escape. But before she could take another step, the reality-twisted streetlights flickered and dimmed, the bus stopped, fading into a silken web of darkness. A cold hand clutched her wrist from behind, pulling her back toward the shadowy figures. Her breath caught, and for a flickering moment, she understood that they were not just children, they were the ghosts of every lost soul seeking salvation, each little face a memory tainted with unfulfilled desires. Suddenly, the bus driver reappeared, his silhouette sharp against the flickering light, his voice steely and hard. "You should have taken your ticket, young lady." Her resolve shattered, panic surged, and she turned to flee, every instinct screaming for escape. But the whispers grew louder, overwhelming her. "Will you be our mommy forever?" She was trapped. The night was hungry, and she could feel its breath on her neck. And then, through her mounting dread, a blinding beam flashed across the street as headlights approached. Was this her salvation? Or was it something far worse lurking just beyond the light? The headlights cut through the darkness like a knife, illuminating the chaos around her. There was a moment of stillness in the whirlwind where time froze. The children stood motionless, their expressions twisted, eyes glistening with an intensity that set ice through her veins. They were creatures of night, condemned to linger in the shadows until someone accepted their call. Her heart thudded louder as the vehicle approached. She squinted against the brightness, praying for salvation, for escape from this nightmarish scene. But as the car came closer, the relief she hoped for morphed into something else. The face behind the wheel twisted in an unsettling smile, one she didn't recognize. "Mommy, don't you want to come home?" The children chorused, their voices rising, vibrating through her like a drumbeat. The bus driver remained still, his dark gaze fixed upon her, patiently waiting for her next move. A pit creased her stomach, every intuition screaming to turn away, but her legs felt frozen, anchored to the ground. The car halted right in front of her, braking sharply, the headlights blinding her momentarily. She shielded her eyes, feeling the warmth of the engine as it hummed softly, eerily at peace amidst the tension. "Get in," the driver beckoned, his voice baritone and gruff, but underneath lay an invitation that was both enticing and terrifying. For a second, hope flickered within her, battling the shadows that still clung to her skin. The children's giggling warped into an ominous echo. "Mommy, please!" "Don't listen to them." The bus driver's voice cut through the chaotic symphony. But could she trust him? Her instincts warred the familiar urgencies of maternal longing suffocated by the gnawing awareness of danger. "But they're just lonely." "Everyone wants a mommy," he continued, his voice softening, a stark contrast to the growing shadows around the children. She desperately searched his eyes for honesty, feeling like a leaf caught in the wind, spinning toward the inevitable. "Will you take them home?" The question slipped from her lips before she could stop it. She instantly regretted asking, fearing the answer, the weight of her own heart pulling her toward the ghastly little figures. The bus driver's demeanor changed. He leaned closer, his eyes glimmering with a knowing sadness. "They only want you because you're lost too." In that moment, clarity pierced through the fog of fear. What if she was more lost than she realized? Memories she had buried bubbled up, the aching loneliness, the guilt of having been unable to save those she'd loved. Her pulse quickened. "Get in," he urged again, desperation coating his words. "They're not what they seem." The children took a step forward, hands reached out like desperate little claws, their faces contorted in a mix of sadness and hunger. "Mommy, Mommy," they whined in unison, a heartbreaking melody that tugged at her soul, reaching for something faded and fragile within her. Panic flared anew. With a surge of energy, she turned abruptly, running toward the car. But the shadows shifted, closing in from every side. She could hear them now, a cacophony of whispers, urgent and insistent. "Join us, stay with us." Then, just as she reached the door, the driver's voice thundered in her mind. "You can't save them. They will never allow you to leave." As the chilling realization sliced through her, her heart stopped. All at once, the children began to close in, their eyes gleaming with something dark and disturbing. "Mommy, will you stay with us forever?" She hesitated, breath hitched in her throat, caught between a choice that felt too monstrous to make. Was she ready to leave everything behind? Before she could answer, the night exploded with an intensity she never expected. The shadows lurched toward her like the encroaching tide. The world around her began to fracture, the light bending and twisting before her eyes, and then silence. What had she chosen? Somewhere in that silence, a new voice hovered, beckoning her into the abyss. "Now the real game begins." The silence felt thick, oppressive. She blinked slowly, trying to piece together her surroundings, her breath shallow like the wheeze of an old engine. The headlights that had once pierced the darkness now flickered, casting elongated shadows around her that danced mischievously. Where were the children? Did they vanish, or had they morphed into the very darkness that swirled about her? She raised her trembling hands, but the shadows felt slick against her skin, like oil. Panic gripped her anew. Where was the driver? The bus? The promised escape? It all felt like a far-off dream. A sudden rustling broke the oppressive stillness. A figure emerged from the dark. A child, but not one of the little ones she had seen before. This one was taller, older, and the gleam in its eyes was a predatory shade she couldn't ignore. It stepped closer, its form shifting, making her heartbeat echo loud in her ears. "You chose wrong," it whispered, its voice wrapped in the age-old melody of thunder and rain. "All they wanted was to help you find home." Home? The word tasted foreign, like a hunger she couldn't identify. "What do you mean?" The child tilted its head, the shadows under its brow pooling like ink. "Mommy, don't you remember? You wanted to come home. We could all go together." A jolt struck through her. Memories flashed like lightning, her old house, laughter echoing through the hallways, a red kite flying high on a summer day. But then, darkness seeped in an empty room, a door slamming shut, the last time she'd seen her family. "Leave me alone," she cried, a desperate plea coating her voice. The child grinned wider, a chasm of nothing where innocence should lie. Denied a family? It mused, its voice slithering across the night. But why? They all turned from you. They were weak, you offered them strength, but they rejected you. Now look at you, running in the dark, searching for a way to heal. My children, she could hardly say the words, a lump full of regret forming in her throat. I need to find them. The creature's laughter tinkled, sharp and cold, slicing through her pain. You could join them here with us forever. Shadows coiled around it, drawing ever closer in a ghostly embrace. A soft whimper caught in her throat as the memories clawed at her heart. I can't, I want tea. The child's grin could have cracked bone. Mommy, don't fight it. We only want you to feel what we feel, to have what we offer. You can be with them again. You're already one of us. As if on cue, the shrill laughter of the younger children echoed again from the shadows, a haunting tune that wrapped around her, pulling her deeper into the void. Please, she begged the universe, heart racing. Let me go. But the laughter only rose, an insidious anthem, spiraling like a cyclone. She felt herself being drawn in, seeing hints of her children morphing and dancing in the edges of the light. The lines of where her sanity lay blurred further, her stomach twisted painfully. With a surge of desperate determination, she tore her gaze away from the children. She had to push through. She screamed against the overwhelming pull, against the shadows whispering sweet nothings in her ears. I want to be your mommy. In that moment, something cracked in the air. The shadows retreated, recoiling like frightened snakes. Suddenly, a bright blinding light erupted, and she felt the remnants of her resolve flicker in her chest. Mommy, come back. The voices chased her as she turned to run, bearing the salt of tears and the burn of regret. What more would she discover about the darkness before her? With every frantic step, she turned to face the darkness that loomed behind her. Soon, the figure whispered, shadows still hounding. We'll come for you. Just wait. Would she fight this darkness for her children? Or succumb to the haunting melodies whispering promises of a hellish reunion? Time pressed on. She could not escape. And as she dashed into the heart of the chaos, the question lingered like smoke in the air. What if the darkness craved her as desperately as she craved the light? The light enveloped her like a pulse, igniting her senses. For a moment, she stood still, surrounded by its warm embrace, the shadows shrieking in fury behind her. But she knew that warmth was fleeting. She had to keep moving. The memories clawed at her, desperate to drag her back. She sprinted, heart hammering in her chest, the rhythm matching the frantic beat of her mind. The hard, cold pavement beneath her feet felt unyielding, each footfall echoing deafeningly in the silence that followed the light. Yet, the silence came bearing weight. It was dense with something lurking, a presence just outside the periphery of her vision. Where are you going, Mommy? The tall child's voice taunted again, slithering through the air. You can't run from home. Home, that word twisted like a knife, embedding deep in her ribs. She felt an ache, a gnawing hunger for the familiarity and safety that home once offered. But she pushed the thought away, shaking her head, as if to physically rid herself of the guilt. No, she would not surrender to the beckoning shadows. Ahead, the road forked, the left path cloaked in deeper darkness, the right illuminated by a flickering streetlight that cast a weak glow. She hesitated, each option like a split soul. The light felt safe, but it also felt like more shadows awaited her just beyond the edge. Don't choose the light. The taller child's voice echoed wickedly, a sneer woven through its words. That light won't bring your kids back. They're ours now. Her breath hitched in her throat as she faltered. Memories of her children, those innocent faces turned with fear, rushed through her mind like a harrowing flood. The image seared her heart. How could she bear the thought of leaving them behind? In a flash, she recalled their laughter, the sparkle in their eyes as they played in the backyard. What had they been doing last? A game, a race, running freely. The pain of their absence was like a heavy weight, a chain pulling her to the cold ground. Suddenly, the shadows surged, coiling like serpents, hissing promises that pricked at her resolve. "Join us, Mommy," they whispered sweetly. "We can all be together." A chill lanced down her spine as nightmarish visions flickered in her mind. The kids, twisted and broken, dancing in a manner that was so far removed from the joy they once embodied. Horror churned in her stomach. She must choose wisely. "No!" she screamed, spinning on her heel, racing toward the flickering light. If the darkness had truly claimed her kids, then she would fight like hell. She didn't know what lay ahead, but fear of what was behind fueled her legs to pump harder. The streetlight blinked violently, as if struggling against the encroaching shadows. Just ahead, she could make out the outline of the bus stop, a lifeline beckoning her with weary arms. She could almost hear the bus's engine hum softly, offering a thread of hope woven into the tension. But the shadows curved and shifted, slipping through the cracks, elongating their reach. "You can't escape us!" they cried, voices harmonizing into a dissonant song. As she crossed the threshold beneath the streetlight, the air grew cold, a biting wind wrapping around her body, pushing her forward. And at that moment, just past the stop, she caught a glimpse of movement, a flicker of color, a familiar face in the shadows. One of her children? "Mommy!" a small voice sang, breaking through the chaos. It was a sound so cherished, yet so full of agony. She jerked toward the figure, pulling her heart into focus. It danced just out of her reach, but as the shadows closed in around her, she could barely breathe. Could it really be? Longing waged war against dread in her chest. The childless eyes sparkled with something she couldn't identify: relief, fear, love, or something darker. "Mommy, come play." The child's voice, once so innocent, faltered into something ominous, inviting her back into the darkness. Now she faced a dilemma. What awaited here in the fading light? Was this truly her child, or a cruel illusion crafted by the shadows that encroached like storm clouds, hungry for more? As she stepped forward, the question loomed large. Did she dare risk stepping into the darkness to retrieve what she loved, or was it a trap luring her back into a fate worse than she could imagine? Her heart pounded as she faced the figure, every instinct screaming to run, yet something deeper clawed at her, begging her to stay. The child's form flickered like an old film reel, indistinct yet achingly familiar. Was it a trick of the shadows, or the ache of love pulling her in? "Come play, Mommy." The voice twisted around her, coiling like smoke, drawing her closer to the edge of the shadowy abyss. Each syllable dripped with an unsettling sweetness, and she found herself teetering between hope and despair. "Is it really you?" she called, desperation breaking her voice. The flicker paused, tilting its head, a semblance of recognition dancing in its eyes, or was it only mockery? "Why do you hesitate?" the shadows whispered, their chorus creeping closer, wrapping around her legs like cold fingers. "Don't you want to be with them? To laugh again?" The memories surged back, an emotional flood sweeping her away. Her children's giggles during backyard games, the way they clutched her hands on family outings, their trust in her unwavering. But then the images twisted. The shadows warped their faces into grotesque distortions, wailing cries of something lost. "No!" She clenched her fists, shaking her head violently. "You took them from me." The shadows giggled, a cacophony of voices melding together, rising higher and higher, until it was a deafening symphony of mockery. "Come find them, Mommy. Just take a few more steps. We can all be together." But where was together? The weight of the unseen burden threatened to suffocate her. How could she bring them back? If this figure before her was real, she needed to make a decision, not just for herself but for the children she yearned to save. She reached forward, testing the distance, but shadows snaked closer, closing in, a dark tide washing over her. You must decide. Will you embrace the darkness, or will you leave the light behind? The flickering streetlight buzzed, its illumination swaying as if caught in a battle with the looming darkness. She felt its warmth fading, a reminder of the life she sought to reclaim. Was the light ultimately stronger, or was it only an illusion? "Mommy!" The flicker gasped, eyes wide, filled with a glint of an unspeakable horror. "If you don't choose, we'll take them forever." Terror gripped her throat like a vice. What if turning away now meant handing her children over to the shadows irretrievably? The figure lunged forward, an outstretched hand reaching for her. "Don't leave me. Don't leave us." Suddenly, the wind howled, a chilling wail that set her heart racing and solidified her resolve. She would not be bound by the darkness. With one last push, she kicked off the instinct to retreat and took a step back, shouting, "No! I will find a way to bring my children back without you." The shadows hissed in fury, a sound that sent ice coursing through her veins. The ground beneath her trembled, the shadows darting away, writhing angrily at her defiance. But even as she spoke, doubt gnawed at her. Had she just sealed her children as fate to stay lost? Then, from beyond the flickering light, a sudden vision pierced through the gathering gloom, a figure, pale and small, standing silently against the darkness. She recognized that silhouette. Her heart twisted a glimmer of hope, but as she turned towards it, the shadows screamed, "You'll regret this, Mommy. We'll be waiting for you." And in that moment, she knew she had only just begun her fight. What awaited her beyond the light? With shaky breaths, she steeled herself for whatever lay ahead. The stakes had never been higher. Would this be the moment she lost everything, or could she find a way back to the joy she'd lost? As she stepped closer to the figure, fear coursed through her veins, yet determination burned brighter. Here in the nexus of choice, she felt the distinct pull of hope. Would she be brave enough to face the truth, no matter its cost? A whisper curled through her thoughts, chilling yet inviting. "Step forward and join us forever." Her voice trembled as she called out into the dark. "I will find you." But hope coursed with an unsettling terror as she wondered if that promise would lead her to salvation or damnation. What awaited on the other side of the light? The lingering question hung heavy in the air, darker than the shadows themselves. The figure in the light transformed, unraveling like a ribbon caught in the wind. As it stepped closer, the harsh glow painted new depths in the shadows surrounding her. The outline shifted, revealing a childless face, one she had nearly forgotten. Familiar blue eyes glimmered under the pale light, but there was something else, something lurking beneath that innocence. "Mommy," it whispered, the tone both sweet and sinister. "You've come to find me, haven't you?" She swallowed hard, heart echoing in her ears. "I'm here. I'm here for you." But was she? Could she trust this vision? Each word beckoned like honey dripped into darkness. The shadows writhed, angry whispers filling the air, pulling at the edges of her resolve. "Mommy," the figure stepped forward, each movement a delicate dance through the gloom. "I'm so lonely. They won't let me go." The anguish in those words pierced her heart. Memories of laughter twisted with heartbreak. In one rapid motion, she reached out, desperate to bridge the distance. "I'll never leave you again." As she touched the childless hand, a jolt of ice surged through her, freezing her core. The figure's smile morphed, the sweetness fading into malice. "But Mommy, someone has to stay." Before she could respond, the ground shook violently beneath her. The shadows surged, pulling at her, hungry to reclaim what she had just begun to grasp. "You should be listened," they screeched, a terrifying symphony of shrieks merging into one deafening roar. Fighting against the tide, she forced herself to stand firm. "No!" she shouted against the chaos. I won't let you take her again. With every ounce of strength, she steadied her gaze on the child. If you're real, lead me out. Show me the way. The figure hesitated, clouds of shadows swirling indecisively around it. Follow me, it urged, an eerie lilt to its voice. The echoes of a childhood lullaby, sweet yet mournful, drifted toward her, filling her with longing but also fear. She took a deep breath, uncertainty clawing at her mind. Could she trust this creature, conjured from the darkest parts of her heart and memory? And yet, it was all she had, her children's laughter and light, now twisted into this horror. Do you want to play? It asked again, coaxing as if the playtime promised a relief she so desperately craved. Suddenly, the ground erupted, fracturing underfoot. She stumbled but caught herself, eyes wide in terror as tendrils of darkness shot up around her legs, dragging her down into an abyss she couldn't escape. No! Let me go! She screamed, tears streaming down her face. In a flash of courage, she lunged toward the flickering light. I believe in you, she cried, reaching desperately for the child, hoping to resurrect the bond they once shared before loss turned joy into sorrow. But the world spiraled, shadows clawing, coiling like serpents around her heart. This will be the last time you get to choose, they hissed, their tones sinister and mocking. As she fell to her knees, gripping the earth for stability, she felt something shift. The child, caught in the balance between light and dark, looked torn, and for a fleeting moment, her eyes held fear, desperate for rescue as she mirrored her mother's plea. Mommy, it whispered again, voice fracturing under the strain of competing forces. Every fiber of her being screamed to act, to save, but which path led to salvation? The shadows pressed tighter, the air thickening with despair, and confusion clouded her mind. Would she forsake everything she loved to plunge deeper into the darkness for the child she feared she might fail again? The stakes had never been higher as the night grew colder, and above them, something ominous hung in the air. Her heart raced as she cried out one final time, I will come back for you. Yet as the shadows twisted and the darkness deepened, she couldn't shake the feeling that turning her back might be the very thing that condemned her to lose this precious fragment of her heart forever. What if this was just the beginning? Soon, she discovered the cost of her decision, and the truth about what waited in the shadows. The moment she tore herself from the embrace of cold shadows, it was as if the air around her shattered into fragments. She stumbled backward, trying to reconcile the darkness she had just emerged from. The brightness of the world outside felt blinding, each beam stinging her eyes. She was gasping, heart pounding, drenched in the dread of what she had left behind. Mommy! The soft voice echoed in her mind, haunting and sweet, sending shivers down her spine. She had turned away, but the child's pleading eyes held her in a grip of anguish, and the promise of returning was becoming a heavy burden. Around her stood the remnants of a familiar landscape, once a playground overflowing with laughter and joy, now silenced under an oppressive stillness. The moon hung thick above, illuminating swings swaying gently in the night breeze, like ghosts reminiscing over lost joys. Each step she took felt like a march toward uncertainty, the playfulness of her past smothered by the weight of her decisions. Did I make the right choice? She breathed, the question swallowed by silence. Her heart was thrumming in her chest, dread pulling at the pit of her stomach. Fear clawed at her, warning her to stay alert. Then, a flicker of movement caught her eye. A shadow darted between the trees, then vanished. Adrenaline surged through her, but she hesitated. Every instinct screamed to run, but something deep within her urged caution. Is anyone there? She called out, voice shaky. The landscape remained still, the only sound the rustling leaves. Moments stretched out like hours, thick with anticipation. She took a cautious step forward, searching the darkness beyond. The moonlight danced against the shimmering grass, but the trees seemed to breathe, alive with secrets encoded in their shadows. Suddenly, a soft breath of laughter, twisted and unrecognizable, echoed through the air. It sent her heart racing. The laughter felt familiar yet chilled her to the bone. It was the laughter of her child, distorted and echoed by the shadows that enveloped her. "Mommy!" Her eyes darted toward its source. Standing at the edge of the playground was a figure cloaked in darkness, blurred around the edges. "They're looking for you," it said, voice slick with malice, dripping with a terrible allure. "Will you play with us forever?" Tendrils of fear spidered up her spine. "What do you mean?" she choked out, desperation filling her voice. "What have you done?" As the figure stepped closer, it morphed between the shadow and flickering light, transitioning seamlessly. "Your choice, dear mommy, is to leave or to stay. But if you leave, well, you might miss the best game of all." "No," she whispered, recognizing the sneering echo of the darkness around her. "What do you want from me?" "Just a little trust," it crooned. "Come play, or watch. The choice is yours." It gestured toward the abyss she'd just escaped, where her childless figure still lingered, suspended within the gloom. Caught in the relentless grip of terror, she hesitated. Each tiny fragment of her heart urged her to run back, to rescue what was hers. But a deeper fear, one rooted in shame and failure, held her feet glued to the ground. In that moment of dread, the laughter erupted again, shattering her resolve. It was her child, but not her child, a twisted echo of innocence. "Come back, Mommy. We can be together." Just then, the shadows shifted again, drawing back slightly, revealing an unsettling scene. Figures began to emerge, reflected in the sickly glow emanating from the trees. Ghostly shapes, once lost souls, now trapped in eternal play beneath the moon's gaze. "Will you be my mommy forever?" they chorused, the unnerving chant circling closer. Swallowing hard, she steeled herself. What had she stepped into? Could she trust this version of her daughter? The question pressed against her. As she stared into the abyss where the shadows danced, a flicker of determination blazed within her. The stakes were higher than just her heart, it was a gamble with everything she loved. "Who taught you to play?" she yelled, raising her voice above the chorus of whispers. "Who taught you all of this?" And in that moment, the air grew heavy with expectation. Ears pricked for the answer that would either set her free or plunge her deeper into peril. What answers lie ahead in this game they were playing? A terrible revelation awaited, and she would need every ounce of courage to confront the truth. The shadows trembled, hesitating as if the very air thickened with secrets ready to spill. The laughter faded, replaced by heart-stopping silence. She could feel at the pulse of the darkness, the tapping of dread just behind her resolve. This was no ordinary playground, no sanctuary of childhood joy. Here, innocence was twisted into something unrecognizable. "Who taught you?" she pressed, her voice trembling but fierce. "What game is this?" The figures lingered, their faces half glimpsed, eyes flickering with a depth of sorrow she couldn't understand. They were echoes of children lost, their smiles painted with despair. One stepped forward, its form solidifying in the moonlight. A girl with tousled hair and a dirty dress, yet her wide eyes held the weight of ages. "You left," she whispered, her voice soft but edged with accusation. "We were waiting for you." "Waiting?" Her breath caught. It was as if each word collided with her heart, sending ice shooting through her veins. "For what?" "I had to leave." Desperation flooded her voice, each syllable a fragile plea. But the girl just smiled sadly. "You can't leave us behind. Don't you want to play?" "Play?" she echoed, the word turning bitter on her tongue. "What kind of game traps people? What do you gain from this?" The shadowy figure flickered, its edges flickering uneasily, as though annoyed at her defiance. "Gain?" it said. "Nothing to gain, just something to share. Pain. Loneliness. Love that never dies." The chill slithered down her back, darkening her thoughts. The weight of grief shifted, and she felt the tug of her memories. Her daughter. Determined curls and joyous laughter. Could love exist in the midst of despair? Let her go. The command thundered out of her. She is just a child. You don't have the right. Do you mean her? The darkness laughed, high and cruel. Or the shadow of who she could become? Here, we join hands in our sorrow. We share our burdens. We play to forget. The spirits around her drew closer, their eyes glittering with a haunting allure. You can join us, Mommy. Find comfort in our game. You miss your child, would you trade all pain to be reunited? But as she clutched her heart, a flicker of hope sparked. Desperation clawed at her. I want to abandon her. She deserves better. Then you'll lose both. The air thickened as figures swirled violently, stretching into monstrous shapes that draped over the playground, blocking her escape. Hearts racing, her thoughts cycled, echoing words she had tried to silence. What had she sacrificed? Could she really save both herself and her child? I choose truth. She screamed, feeling the words rip out of her throat. Not this twisted love. With resolve, she lunged toward the abyss, determination thrumming through her veins. But before reaching it, she felt hands cold, clammy grasping at her wrists. The world around her melted, the echoes of lost souls panicking, calling her back. Don't leave. The figures cried, their voices a cacophony of desperation. Stay with us. As she tugged to break free, a hollow laughter erupted from the shadows. You think you can escape reality? We are part of you now. Suddenly, the scene shifted like a broken picture. In her mind's eye, she saw flashes of her daughter's laughter, intertwined with the solemn faces of countless lost children. The shadows pressed in closer, their grip tightening. One more chance, Mommy, will you stay? Her heart raced as she stood on a precipice on one side, her cherished memories on the other, endless darkness. The decision weighed heavy, a tumultuous choice that could cost her everything. Suddenly, a familiar sound broke through the chaos, a childish laughter, genuine and bright. Could it be real? Mommy! With a frantic gasp, she turned, heart pounding. The scene shifted again, the playground blurring into a vortex of light and shadow. And as she faced the chilling figures once more, a single question shouted at her through the chaos. Which reality do you choose? The dreadful voices rose in unison, waiting for the mighty answer that could either shatter the darkness or plunge her deeper into despair. The world spun as she stood at the crossroads of light and dark, memories flooding her mind, threatening to drown her in nostalgia and regret. The joyous echoes of her children's laughter mingled with the shadows surrounding her, a cacophony that twisted her heart. Faces emerged from the gloom, both familiar and foreign, all bound together by a shared longing for connection, for love that transcended the abyss. Mommy! The voices were higher now, pleading, desperate. Don't leave us. Fear coursed through her, but she clenched her fists, determination igniting a fire in her chest. I want to abandon you, she shouted. I want to lose anyone again. The shadows hissed, recoiling momentarily, as if stung by her resolve. Then you must choose wisely, they shrieked, their voices intertwining like vines around her heart. What did they want from her? She could almost feel the weight of their sorrow pressing down, trying to merge her heart with theirs. But she needed clarity, she needed certainty. I choose my children, she declared, anchoring herself against the swell of darkness that threatened to engulf her entirely. From the shadows, a figure emerged, her daughter standing before her, face bright, eyes shimmering with innocence and pure love. Mommy! She cried, reaching out with small hands. Help us! The warmth ignited inside her chest, bursting forth like a dam unleashing a flood of emotions. I'm here, baby. I'll find a way. The shadows writhed, contorting around them, the anguished cries intensifying. You can't save them if you refuse to join us. They howled, swirling like a tempest around her. Let them go. They deserve to be free, she shouted, the plea resonating deep within her. She surged forward, aware that she could not falter again. She had to face the truth beneath the layers of darkness. As she pushed through the tempest, the child in front of her flickered, her figure wavering like a mirage. Mommy, it was a subtle tremor of hope, a tether reaching back through time. Don't choose the dark. I'm here for you, she cried, the declaration a lifeline thrown across the chasm of despair. The shadows surged, their voices merging into a sinister symphony. You can't escape your reality. Join us, be one with your pain. No. I want joy. I want light. I want to bring my children back to where they belong. Each declaration was a stone thrown in the deep, echoing in the void. Suddenly, the ground beneath her quaked, fracturing under the weight of her conviction. The darkness recoiled, shadows swirling away as if stung by a sudden light. The figure of her daughter spun, reforming before her, the innocence sparkling in her wide eyes, while her translucent hands trembled with a flicker of ungrounded hope. Mommy, hurry! The urgency grew, the atmosphere thick with expectation. Sweat beaded on her brow as the shadows clutched tighter, trying to anchor her back into the void. But determination ignited her spirit, sending a pulse of power lacing through her veins, igniting strength within her. I choose love. I choose to fight. With one final push, she leaped toward her daughter, their fingers almost touching, the bond of love stretching across the abyss. As she reached for her, a blinding light burst forth, radiating on every side, shattering the darkness that sought to consume everything she cherished. The illumination enveloped her like a warm embrace, releasing her from the shadowy chains that had gripped her heart. In that sacred moment, she felt the tether between them solidify, the love transforming the pain that had filled the air. Laughter, pure and innocent, erupted around her, an affirmation of life that sent shivers of joy coursing through her. Mommy! The child's voice rang true, the shadows dissipating dramatically, merging into a kaleidoscope of colors as joy filled the air, drowning out the remnants of despair. As the darkness unraveled, her daughter stepped forward, free of the binds that had once shackled her. They embraced, the connection fierce and unbreakable, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. I'm back, she whispered, feeling the weight of her choices lift like a cloud dispersing in the sunlight. In that moment, she realized it wasn't just about fighting, it was about reclaiming love, unearthing hope from the trenches of despair. The playground shifted once more, now vibrant with life, resounding with laughter, children playing, their faces bright under the sunlight that reignited their world. As she held her child, the shadows shrieked one last time, but their cries transformed into whispers that sweetly dwindled into nothingness. Her heart swelled, the light wrapping around them like a blanket, reaffirming that they were free. Will you always stay with me, Mommy? The child's voice was soft, filled with hope. Yes, forever, she answered, her heart brimming with love. Together, they laughed and played, embracing the love that ignited their joyous reality. The darkness was vanquished, but her bond remained, an unshakable thread woven through the fabric of their lives. And with that promise standing resolute in the air, she understood no matter how deep the shadows may be, love was the unbreakable light that would always guide them home. Now, if you love this story and want to see more incredible journeys like this, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second. Hit that red button to stay updated on all the exclusive stories we have coming. And come on, smash that like button right now, it helps keep this amazing content flowing. I want to see you in the comments as well. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what you think happens next in the series. Finally, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this emotional journey right along with you. This is the moment to show your support. Join our community today.